The first time he heard her voice, he forgot the billion-dollar meeting waiting for him. It was an ordinary Tuesday morning, bright with clear blue skies and busy city streets, when one unexpected phone call changed everything. Adrian Sterling, a 39-year-old CEO known for building one of the country's largest technology companies, had everything money could buy but nothing his heart truly needed. His towering office overlooked the city, his calendar was filled months in advance, and people admired his success from a distance. Yet every evening he returned to a silent penthouse where the only sound was the ticking of an expensive clock. Years of betrayal, endless work, and painful loneliness had built invisible walls around his heart. Then one simple customer service call connected him to a woman he had never seen. Her calm, warm, comforting voice carried a kindness so genuine that it reached places inside him he believed had disappeared forever. Before he ever knew her name, before he ever imagined her face, he found himself waiting to hear that voice again. Before we continue this emotional journey, if you believe kindness can heal broken hearts and that everyone deserves a second chance at happiness, please like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this story with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the channel Ripple of Kindness so you never miss another heartwarming story. The woman behind that unforgettable voice was 29-year-old Evelyn Brooks. Every weekday she worked inside a bright customer support center where large windows filled the office with natural daylight. While many callers were impatient or rude, Evelyn answered every phone call with quiet patience. Few people knew that after finishing work each afternoon, she hurried home to care for her elderly grandmother, who had raised her after her parents passed away during her childhood. Money was always tight. She wore simple clothes, packed homemade lunches, and postponed every personal dream because someone else always needed her first. Yet despite carrying burdens that would have discouraged many people, she never allowed bitterness to replace compassion. Her voice carried warmth because her heart had chosen kindness even after years of hardship. Adrian's first call had been about a technical issue affecting an important business account. The problem was solved within minutes, but he found himself lingering on the line, asking unnecessary questions simply to hear Evelyn speak. Her words were never dramatic or flirtatious. Instead, they carried honesty, patience, and quiet encouragement that somehow calmed the constant pressure living inside his mind. After ending the call, Adrian realized something unusual had happened. For the first time in years, he smiled without forcing it. Over the following weeks, small technical questions somehow became reasons to call again. Adrian never crossed professional boundaries, and Evelyn never treated him differently from any other customer because she had no idea she was speaking to one of the country's wealthiest CEOs. To her, he sounded like another hard-working man dealing with stressful responsibilities. She often reminded him to rest, drink enough water, and not let work consume every part of his life. Those simple reminders stayed with Adrian long after every conversation ended. No board member, investor, or business partner had ever cared enough to ask whether he was sleeping well or eating properly. Outside the office, Adrian's life continued to look perfect. Business magazines featured him on their covers. Television interviews praised his leadership. Investors celebrated record profits. Yet inside, he still carried deep wounds from a broken engagement years earlier when he discovered that the woman he planned to marry loved his wealth more than the man himself. Since then, every compliment felt suspicious, every invitation felt calculated, and every relationship seemed wrapped in hidden expectations. But Evelyn knew nothing about his fortune. She only knew the man behind the voice, and somehow that made every conversation feel honest. Meanwhile, Evelyn faced challenges of her own. Her grandmother's health slowly declined, and medical bills grew heavier every month. Friends encouraged Evelyn to find a better-paying job or move to another city, but leaving her grandmother alone was never an option. She quietly accepted overtime shifts while hiding her exhaustion behind the same comforting voice that had unknowingly become Adrian's favorite part of every week. Months passed, and Adrian began arranging legitimate customer follow-ups whenever possible. His executive assistant noticed the unusual pattern but said nothing. One afternoon, while sitting in his bright office overlooking the city under a clear daytime sky, Adrian realized something that frightened him. He had fallen in love with someone whose face he had never seen. He knew nothing about her appearance, yet he knew the kindness inside her heart. He knew how gently she spoke to elderly customers, how patiently she explained complicated problems, and how sincerely she celebrated when she solved someone's issue. Somehow those invisible qualities mattered more than beauty ever could. Fate, however, had different plans. One day Adrian called only to hear another representative answer. Evelyn had resigned. His heart sank. For several moments he simply stared through the office window as if the city itself had suddenly grown quieter. Company policy prevented employees from sharing personal information, so Adrian thanked the representative and ended the call. For the first time in years, success meant absolutely nothing. The meetings continued. The profits increased. Awards arrived. Yet every achievement felt strangely empty because one gentle voice had disappeared from his daily life. Unknown to Adrian, Evelyn had resigned because her grandmother's condition required full-time care. She sold many personal belongings to afford medication and quietly accepted temporary neighborhood jobs while spending every possible moment beside the woman who had sacrificed everything to raise her. Even during the hardest days, she refused to complain. She believed kindness should never depend on comfort. Several months later, Adrian attended a charity event supporting caregivers and senior citizens. He rarely accepted public invitations anymore, but something persuaded him to go that sunny afternoon. As guests gathered beneath white tents in a peaceful park filled with blooming flowers and green trees, a volunteer stepped onto the small stage to thank everyone for supporting the cause. The moment she began speaking, Adrian froze. It was the same voice. His heart raced as memories flooded back. Slowly he walked closer through the crowd until he finally saw her. She wasn't surrounded by luxury or attention. She wore a simple light blue dress, comfortable shoes, and a humble smile. Beside her sat an elderly woman in a wheelchair, watching proudly as Evelyn thanked every volunteer and donor. Adrian realized that the beauty he had imagined was nothing compared to the kindness shining from her actions. He waited until the event ended before introducing himself honestly. Evelyn recognized his name from the business world but had never connected it to the familiar caller. They laughed at the unbelievable coincidence, then spent hours talking beneath the warm afternoon sun. There were no expensive gifts, no dramatic promises, and no attempts to impress each other. They simply shared stories, hopes, fears, and dreams that had remained hidden for years. Adrian gradually became involved in helping the caregiving charity, not because of publicity but because Evelyn inspired him to use his success differently. Together they created programs supporting exhausted family caregivers with financial assistance, counseling, and temporary relief services. Adrian discovered that true leadership was measured not by company value but by lives changed through compassion. Evelyn learned that accepting help did not make someone weak. It allowed kindness to multiply. When Evelyn's grandmother peacefully passed away months later, Adrian stood quietly beside her throughout the difficult days. He never tried to erase her grief. He simply stayed. In that silent support, Evelyn recognized the same gentle heart she had unknowingly comforted over countless phone calls. Their love story spread quietly through friends and charity volunteers, not because a billionaire fell in love with an ordinary woman, but because two lonely hearts recognized each other long before appearances ever mattered. Adrian had fallen in love with her voice, but he stayed because of her character. Evelyn accepted his heart, not his wealth, proving that genuine love grows strongest when built on kindness, trust, and shared purpose rather than status. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who still believes in true love, leave a comment about the moment that moved you the most, and subscribe to Ripple of Kindness for more unforgettable stories that remind us hope is always waiting where kindness begins. Special request: comment below with the words, "Kindness always finds a way," if you believe the most beautiful hearts are discovered long before we ever see someone's face. As the sun slowly settled across the bright afternoon sky, Adrian realized that the greatest decision of his life had never happened inside a boardroom. It began with one unexpected phone call, one compassionate voice, and one woman who chose kindness every single day, even when life gave her every reason to give up. Their story became proof that love doesn't always begin with a first glance. Sometimes it begins with a voice that reaches a lonely heart and reminds it that hope, healing, and happiness are still possible.